identifying Babylon the Great with the United States of America, giving all praise to Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua B'Shem Kakodash. This is from my article. What I'll do is I'll leave the link in the description box. Anyway, the article is, it says here on the top, Truth Only Bible, about the Bible, Christianity, and current events. Then it says, this was put up Thursday, the 29th of this year, July 29th. And it says, the case for identifying Babylon the Great with the United States of America. Now, the reason why I putting this video together is because last night I came across a video that was on Sarnetta's page, and he had Vocab Malone, John Mark Rising on as a guest, and they spoke about, GMS came up, my name came up, and he spoke about the things that GMS teaches from myself on down. And he says, these guys teach that the mark of the beast is the microchip. And I'm glad he said that, because we did videos on that subject so much that when you speak about the MOTB, as far as other Israelites are concerned, they're going to think about GMS. And he says it in a way that, come on, that's ridiculous. But he doesn't know what the mark of the beast is. And he doesn't understand. He should stay his ass out of anything that has to do with the prophecies of the scriptures, because they don't teach you that in seminaries. What else did he say? He said, besides America being Babylon, he said the MOTB is the chip. And then he said, America is Babylon the Great. Well, I'm going to read this article. And this group here, this site, is owned by Edomites. You have a lot of so-called white people, Christians, that teach that America is Babylon the Great. And we're going to get into it. And you know me, I like to, I go into a lot of prophetic scriptures, and I go into a lot of breakdowns. I'm known for that in Apostle Aram Lab and others. But me and Apostle Aram Lab, we go into a lot of breakdowns. We'll go into chapters and break them down. Anyway, let me scroll down. To this paragraph here. It says the unity of Revelation 17 and 18. It says, traditionally, most, not all, pre-tribulationists, which are the people that teach about a rapture, the 7-year tribulation period, and that the body of believers are going to be raptured. And then the ones that don't believe are going to stay down here. And then the end is going to come. You can read about it. All you got to do is take, copy and paste pre-tribulationists or pre-tribulation, or a rapture, or the rapture of the church, and Google, and it will explain it to you. Excuse me. It says, traditionally, most, not all, pre-tribulationists interpreters have differentiated the Babylon the Great of Revelation 17 from the Babylon the Great and Revelation 18, and what you're going to find out as I read down. Well, let me just go ahead and read down. It's right in the next line. Arguing the Revelation 17 speaks of an apostate church. They mostly say the Roman Catholic Church, that's supposed to be Babylon the Great, or the Great Whore, which the Great Whore is Babylon. It's one and the same. Speaks of an apostate church symbolically as a harlot, and that Revelation 18 describes a literal city, and the city is as big as its citizens. You have U.S. citizens, so you can live in California and be a U.S. citizen. You can live in Wyoming and be a citizen. You can live in Georgia and be a citizen in Georgia, and also a citizen of the U.S., and that's in your Constitution. I believe that's the 14th Amendment. It says, Revelation 18 describes a literal city. However, an analysis of Revelation 17/8-18, Revelation chapter 17 and 18 shows that both chapters refer to the same entity, which is true, and that this is a political entity, not an apostate church. The only time the apostate church is mentioned in Revelation is in Revelation chapter 16. 3 unclean spirit like frogs come out of the mouth of the false prophet, and out of the beast, and out of the dragon, out of the mouth of the dragon. It says, first, Revelation 17, verse 18, directly states that the harlot of Revelation 17 is the great city. More accurately, the great polis or state of Revelation 18, and that woman whom you saw is the great state which has a kingdom over the kings of the earth, clearly establishes that the harlot is a political entity, not a religious one. Babylon the Great is a world hegemon, and I did a video on that, hegemony, which you had guys from IUIC say the mark of the beast is hegemony. And hegemony simply means that one nation that has rule over other nations. And America has that rule. You know, if they'll say, oh, these people of a particular nation are beating their wives, and we can't have that, so we're going to go over there. That's hegemony. It says a superpower that dominates world politics. Yep. Anytime you talk about world politics or geopolitics, America is also always mentioned in that conversation. Economics. This economic crisis that's taking place in America is affecting the whole planet. You know, when America sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold or flu. It goes on to say, and see, you know, for you Christians, you have Christians that actually go into the scriptures. So this particular group went into the scriptures, studied the prophetic parts of the scriptures, and came to the conclusion that this would have to be an actual state. It says Babylon the Great is a world hegemon, a superpower that dominates world politics, economics, and culture in the last days. Going back to the ancient pagan Roman Empire, other nations became Romanized. You have a term called Americanized or Americanization, where you have, if you go to Japan, you have, McDonald's, you have Burger King, you have these American things that are part of American culture that other nations, partake of. Dealing with Japan, and I did a video on this as well, not too long ago, where you have, at one time, Japanese wore the traditional garbs of a Japanese person, and now if you go to Japan, they're wearing suits and ties. So that's called an Americanization of that particular country. Anyway, let me read on. It says, on the other hand, there is no direct statement of any kind in Revelation 17, 1 to 19, verse 5, to the effect that the harlot is an apostate church or other ecclesiastical, which means church, entity, rather than a political entity with ungodly spiritual values and practices. Revelation 17 does not even mention a false religion or system of worship of any kind, such as idolatry and occultism. Contrast Revelation 9 verse 20, or heretical teaching. A contrast Revelation 2 verse 14 and 15. There is a remarkable lack of references to a religion of any kind in Revelation 17, chapter 1 to 19. The major argument that Revelation 17 describes a worldwide church is that this is an implication of the term fornication and the figure of a harlot. However, a study of references in Scripture to committing fornication in a figurative sense, such that this figure is used of a nation. Ezekiel 16 verse 26, Jeremiah 2 verse 20, Micah 1 verse 7, and individuals, Jeremiah 5 verse 7, Matthew 12 verse 39. But nowhere in Scripture is a false religion or apostate church said to commit fornication. Likewise, while individuals are, bear with me for a minute. Okay, give you a handful of precepts here. Okay, it says here, I'm going to find a spot. Likewise, while individuals are sometimes said to figuratively play the harlot, Exodus 34 verses 15 and 16, or to be adulterers, Isaiah 57 verse 3, Jeremiah 9 verse 2, Hebrews 12 verse 16, James 4 and 4, and the figure of a harlot may be applied to nations or cities. It is never applied to a false church or religion. So they came to the conclusion that it's not the Roman Catholic institution, that it's in fact America. I'll read a little bit more. The name Babylon the Great, traditionally pre-tribulationists, have held one or two major views of the identity of the political Babylon the Great, which all acknowledge is described at least in Revelation 18. These are the proposals that Babylon the Great is Rome. And that's what a lot of scholars will tell you, that the new Babylon, the daughter of Babylon, Babylon the Great in the book of Revelation, is Rome. In a way it is. It's the second Rome. It's the new Rome. America is the new Rome. NATO and the new EU are the new Rome. And the capital would be America. And the capital of America is Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia. If you go down there, if you go down to the capital area, and I've been down there several times, it looks like a scene out of Rome, the Roman architecture of the way the buildings are set up, the Capitol building, the surrounding buildings, and that it is old city. And then if you take a bird's eye view or a schematic of DC, it's the shape of an owl, and right in the belly of the owl is the Capitol building, and on top of the Capitol building is supposed to be the Statue of Freedom, which that goes back to what's her name? Persophones, which I got to go back into that history, but she goes back into Greek mythology, and a lot of things that the Romans adopted from Greek mythology. So they'll like I said, scholars will tell you that ancient Rome is Babylon the Great. But it tells you that Babylon the Great will be destroyed by fire. So the whole kingdom, empire, will be destroyed by fire. That never happened in Rome, although Rome caught on fire but was put out and rebuilt. It says the identification of Babylon the Great as Rome was originally developed by Protestant reformers. That's you, vocab. That's you. You're a Protestant reformer who saw the Roman Catholic Church as the primary source. And I believe that's what vocab thinks or teaches, that the Roman Catholic Church is Babylon the Great. It says source of evil in the world. Now they can't be no further from the truth. I mean, you're far from the truth. Its major proponents are critical, liberal scholars, and other preterists who believe that John was describing the politics of his own day rather than the prophesying. And he wasn't talking about the politics of his day. He was talking about, he was on the Isle of Patmos on a salt mine. He was sentenced by the Roman authorities. What he saw was America in Revelation 18 being destroyed, so he wrote it down. He saw a movie, if you will, of America getting hit by missiles. It said if one believes that John was prophesying of an eschatological entity. Eschatology is all things. How's it go? All things coming to an end, and that in other words, all the prophecies took place. The fulfillment of prophecies all took place. It says, in that the Roman Catholic Church is not the primary source of evil in the world, then there is virtually no, it says the image, and they worship the image of the beast. Let's say that's the Roman Catholic Church. That means everybody's going to turn into a Roman Catholic, including Buddhists, Mohammedans, Arabs, atheists. It said no basis whatsoever for the identification of Babylon the Great with Rome. Thus, few pre-tribulational dispensationalists now hold the view that Babylon the Great is the city of Babylon in Iraq is more widely held by pre-tribulational writers, which they're off, This view is based almost exclusively on the use of the name Babylon. However, and it says mystery Babylon. It's a mystery. So it's not talking about the actual Babylon, Iraq, so you can understand. However, the assertion that this name must refer to a rebuilt city of Babylon and Iraq's fall apart quickly upon analysis. But anyway, let me just look through this and let's read a little bit more. But they got it. Okay, let me read this here, and then I'll close it. It says, the identification of Babylon the Great as the great world superpower of the end times, which has to be America. Everything points to America. A study of Revelation 17, verse 1 and 19, shows that Babylon the Great is the world's great superpower in the end times. The following facts emerge from an analysis of the section of the book of Revelation. 1. Babylon the Great has the largest economy of any entity in the world. They always talk about America's the richest country on the planet. It is the center of wealth in the world, and it is responsible for an extended period of global wealth creation in the end times. America is in an economic crisis. When America sneezes, the rest of the world catches a cold or the flu. 2. Babylon the Great has shaped global culture in the end times, and we read that. Americanization of the rest of the world, or most of the world. And democracy came out of America. It came from the Greeks. It was adopted from the Greeks to the Romans and to America. So they had to democratize the whole world. So all these nations that they call them terrorist states and whatever they call them, they all have democratically elected leaders, and they all have this. They all attend the General Assembly at the UN, United Nations, in America. It so happens to be in America. It says wealth creation in the end times. Babylon the Great has shaped a global culture in the end times in a directly anti-Christian manner. Babylon the Great has the greatest political power of any entity in the end times. Babylon the Great is considered to have the strongest military. America is known for look up the 3 nation states: London, England, Vatican City, and Langley, Virginia, the Pentagon. It says any entity in the end times, Babylon the Great is considered to have the strongest military in the world of the end times. What comes in mind is Joel 3 verse 9, let the weak say I am strong. All of these characteristics uniquely and definitively match the United States matches the United States of America. For exegetical details, see the larger paper. Let me click on that. Okay. So that's what happens when you click on that. Give me a second. Let me do it this way. Anyway, with that, I'm going to say shalom.